Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, my friends. Today we're talking fighting game characters, specifically one character, as the characters make the fighting game. Obviously stuff like, your battle mechanics, how everything works, the online, are very core to the experience of a game, but the characters are the lifeblood of the game. They're probably the reason why you're playing a certain game, because if you can't identify with any of the game's characters, it's pretty hard to identify with the game. And fighting games as a genre have had tons of memorable characters over the years. Fighting games as a whole, and just all of video gaming, have some of the best characters ever. Easily stand up with any action games, any RPGs, all that kind of stuff. And for every hit, though, sometimes we have a miss. Now, misses in and of themselves aren't horrible things. There's plenty of characters that don't have a lot of popularity or a lot of backing that have still won the hearts of people over the years, and they still have their fans. However, sometimes there are characters that are just more than a swing and a miss. Sometimes there are characters that are just a complete strike out. And that's what today's video is, as we're talking about Necalli from Street Fighter V. Simply put, Necalli is nobody's favorite character, and when it comes for stuff like character requests for Street Fighter VI, the characters you would love to see in Street Fighter VI, he isn't exactly topping the charts. So let's dig into why Necalli hasn't exactly worked out in Street Fighter. So where are the points of failure on Necalli? First up, in terms of just the aesthetic, it's definitely not there. Necalli, honestly, looks cool as hell. The way he looks, the way he moves, the way his hair flows around, everything looks really, really cool. He definitely has a presence to him as this sort of semi-Aztec-ish warrior. And he has his famous V-trigger where he just goes ultra feral, like Super Saiyan basically. His hair is glowing, it's rising up on the air, like he's literally radiating power. He moves around differently, like crawling on the ground, a lot more feral. Like the design, the aesthetic, it's all really strong. Whatever faults you want to lie on his feet, and we will, don't worry, the look is not it. Everything about him is pretty cool. So if it's not the look, what could it exactly be? What problems does Necalli have? Is it in perhaps the gameplay balance? Is he a crappy character? Well, no, not really. For a lot of the lifespan of Street Fighter V, Necalli's been a top tier character, and at absolute worst, just merely decent. Like this jab you're seeing right here in Season 1? The Season 1 version of this jab was one of the best anti-airs in the history of all fighting games. Besides all that, he just had a really good toolbox. Like, he has the usual uppercut, he had the stomps, which were great for pressure, especially keeping you standing after a combo. Solid enough neutral because he had the boot and stand heavy kick, which was also a good crush counter. He had his V skill, which is better than a usual fireball in a lot of ways, because there's no travel time and it built his V gauge. And despite not being a grappler, they gave him a command grab because why not? Just all the utility in the world. That grab also part of one of my favorite moments of the history of Street Fighter V throughout all the years, when Phenom used it many times in a row against Daigo in Canada Cup 2016. I was there live for it, and it was definitely the highlight of the whole tournament for me. Just good stuff. So the gameplay is not the issue for Necalli, although over the years the biggest criticism levied at him is that he's quote-unquote boring. Maybe boring, but he got results, damn it. So if it's not the looks, it's not the gameplay, what exactly could it possibly be? It's the fact that he was built up to be a big deal and is the antithesis of a big deal. Not only did Necalli not matter, he was aggressively poor in his debut. Like, this is the original Street Fighter V intro before it changed in Arcade Edition, and look at this, Necalli, he's the forefront. He's the ender. Like, look at this. The V. He is the V in Street Fighter V. The game is basically screaming in your face at this point. Yo, this guy is a big deal. Pay attention. Listen up. Because Necalli is now here in Street Fighter. And how does that play out? Well, how it plays out is in wrestling, the king of sports, we have a term called jobber. And the jobber is there to make the other wrestler look good. The jobber is not there to win. And that's exactly what Necalli is. Necalli is the jobber of Street Fighter V. He is there to look like an idiot to make the other person look better. Like, let's look at the Street Fighter V story mode where Necalli has his time to shine. As it were, anyways. At the very beginning, he meets up against Ryu and Dalsum. He does beat Ryu, and this is as good as it gets. This is the beginning of the story mode, by the way, and it's literally all downhill from here. He does manage to beat Ryu, and then he goes up against Dalsum. And you could say Dalsum whips his behind, because, well, that's exactly how it plays out. But let's just be generous for the story's sake, and let's say they fought to a standstill. Necalli not too interested on 2-on-1 fight, so against Ryu and Dalsum, he checks out. He leaves, try to come back another time. So for our mysterious boogeyman who's out to eat the souls of strong warriors, we kind of end on a draw, let's put it that way, right? And it's just not going to go good from here on out. The whole purpose of the character is to absorb the souls of the strongest warriors, and he can't exactly do it. Next up, he would try his luck against M. Bison after M. Bison has already fought Charlie Nash. And despite nominally being weaker because he's already exerted himself in a fight, the thing is, in a one-on-one fight with Bison, he's absolutely no match. Bison totally crushes Necalli for free. At which point, Necalli just simply runs away and Bison laughs him off. So just a straight loss for Necalli. He would then try to run down and injure Charlie, who was on the run, but the thing is, he can't quite pull that off either. Rashid, Azam, and Charlie all escape easily, and Necalli's left standing there like an idiot. At which point we enter endgame for Necalli already. So he chases down Ryu again. Let's go for round 2. And not only is Ryu willing, he basically planned out the fight. He expected this to happen. And now we get our poster boy versus poster boy fight. Ryu, the classic franchise stalwart, versus Necalli, the all-new character who represents the V in Street Fighter V. And how exactly does this all go out? Well, he goes full power and looks like a clown, like literally can't even touch Ryu. And then to cap it all off, Ryu learns a new trick or two. This is where he gets rid of the evil Ryu persona that Setsuji no Hado is gone forever, by the way. And yeah, so he charges in like a dummy and just kind of boom, gets one-shotted. That's it. And that is the end of Necalli. At no point does he ever show up again in the cinematic story mode. He did his best against Ryu, and Ryu literally one-shotted him. And that's it for Necalli. Bye-bye, Necalli. You won't show up ever again. So now you, prospective Street Fighter fan looking for a new character to play, you just played through the story mode, you think Necalli looks cool, and after all this, how invested are you in the character? All he did was lose, 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 and the few other times he shows up post the story mode and other characters' stories, the DLC, he loses to Balrog, and he basically gets killed by Akuma, and that's it. That is the totality of Necalli in Street Fighter. So a lot of the early advertising showing him to be a badass, showing him to be, once again, the V, the whole V system, Street Fighter V, all that, V, 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 V. He has it. He's branded with it, right? And he's just a big fat nothing. Come Street Fighter V Arcade Edition, the new character G is added to the game, and G immediately, as per Capcom, became the boss of Street Fighter V. He wasn't there for years, and yet the second he shows up, he supplants Necalli as the boss of Street Fighter V. He has even less story about him than Necalli does, but it's basically good enough to replace him. Getting closer to the end of Street Fighter V's lifespan here with Champion Edition, Gil is on the box. Gil is the boss from the Street Fighter 3 series, and he's good enough as a big bad to be put on the box, having even less story than G does, let alone Necalli. So basically, Capcom is really extra all the way okay in pretending Necalli never existed. From being such a big part of the early marketing of the game, to just persona non grata. Necalli is the Poochie of Street Fighter. Big splash, big debut, attitude, batitude, the sass, right? And in the end, just absolutely nothing with no substance. You could say he was sabotaged from the start almost, because the story mode went out of their way to make him not look good. But when Ryu punched Necalli and sent him on his way, basically, you might as well say at this moment, this blow sent him back to his home planet. And that, my friends, to me is why Necalli is a failed character with basically no legacy. He looked cool. He has a very strong tournament legacy, through especially the early years of Street Fighter V, he was a strong character in the game. But to have a successful character, you need apparently just more than that, because nobody has any faith in Necalli. The second people could drop Necalli in the game, in Street Fighter V, they did. Everyone was looking to abandon him as basically as fast as they could. It goes to show that a fighting game character is a lot more than just a look, a moveset, and a function. But anyways, my friends, that is my thoughts on Necalli as a character in the Street Fighter franchise. And why, to me anyways, he's a character with basically zero legacy. Hard to believe in a character when the company goes out of the way to basically sabotage them and make them look stupid. But that said, those are my thoughts, and I would like to hear your thoughts on the matter. So post in the comments below, and otherwise we're at the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching, hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some Street Fighter.